Hi, this is Matt from Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns, and you're listening to another fantastic show on the Self-Defense Radio Network. Visit selfdefenseradio.net to check out all the other great shows.
Welcome to Unload and Show Clear, the podcast about all things IDPA. And now, here's your host, President of the Non-Threat Assassination Squad, Lloyd Bailey.
Welcome to another episode of Unload and Show Clear, where we counter the media's negative image of gun culture by introducing you to the amazing men and women who are involved in IDPA, International Defensive Pistol Association. We're focusing on people, not politics. The everyday people from all walks of life, men and women who volunteer their time and effort, who spend their hard-earned dollars on travel, match fees, and gear to make this sport great. They're your doctors. They clean your teeth. They're fixing your houses, taking care of your pets. They fix your computers and pilot your planes, and they protect our streets and our nation. They are gun culture at its finest, and it's misunderstood or completely unknown to the mainstream media. Today, I'm going to introduce you to another one of these awesome people. But first, I want to thank today's sponsor. I found my friends Dave and Reagan Williams at Salina Gun Shop when I needed an FFL transfer for a firearm. Several years ago, they were just a tabletop FFL. Well, since that time, they have grown into a one-stop shop for guns, ammo, accessories, gunsmithing, custom engraving, and they are a certified Cerakote applicator. Whether it's a custom build, engraving, or Cerakote, no matter how mild or how wild you want your firearm, no matter what you need, they can handle it. Now, I've taken them older guns that have bad and scratched up finishes. Salina Gun Shop made them look like new. When my wife wanted her own Glock 19, I had Salina Gun Shop Cerakote the frame to just the right color that she wanted. I've had them install new sights on my guns, do repairs and trigger work on my revolvers. I trust them with my guns, and you can too. I cannot recommend them highly enough. Check them out today at salinagunshop.com. That's CELINA gunshop.com. Look for a link in the show notes to get to their website. Or if you're here in North Texas, stop by and visit them in person at 701 North Preston Road, Suite 310 in Salina, Texas. salinagunshop.com. Small town store, big town service. salinagunshop.com. Our special guest today is Ryan Harrigan from Elk Grove, California. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lloyd. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for taking the time to be with us. It was great to get to meet you at Worlds. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do for a living there in Elk Grove?
Well, for about the last 16 years or so, I've been working for one of the largest communication companies pretty much in the world, and I design networks primarily for banks and financial institutions. So I'm a glorified IT geek.
Originally from California?
Absolutely. Originally from the San Francisco Bay Area and moved to the Sacramento area. So Elk Grove's actually just a couple miles south of Sacramento. Specifically for the housing market, then I realized it's a little more politically the direction I want to go. Okay. Or that I stand. The closer to the ocean, you tend to be a little more anti-gun.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
Right. Understood. So you spent your entire life behind enemy lines, so to speak. How did you get interested in guns?
You know, that's kind of a funny story. Growing up, my mom, my dad, my sisters, none of them are gun people. Luckily, my grandfather, who also from California, he was in the Navy in World War II. He was a gun guy. He hunted. He was a SP when he wasn't deployed, and so he still had his gun collection. And every summer, I'd spend 2 weeks up in Clear Lake, where he lived. And the highlight of my 2 weeks was always getting to go shooting with my grandpa. And nice. He started me out with the 22 all the way up to the hunting rifles. And ever since then, I was hooked. much to my mom's dismay, because she was not a gun person at all. And she still isn't, but she tells me all the time. She's like, I still don't like guns, but I absolutely love what you do.
Oh, wow.
And so that's kind of how I got into guns, is just shooting with my grandfather since I think I started when I was about 5.
Interesting. Was her not being a gun person, was it the sort of the anti-gun thing, or was it just like, you're going to get hurt? You're sort of like Ralphie's mom. You're going to shoot.
I was going to say Ralphie's mom, 100%.
Yeah.
Shoot your eye out. Guns are dangerous. It wasn't politically motivated by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
It was really, she just didn't see a reason or value in them.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm sure that made for some fun dinner time conversation after you came back from Grandpa's.
Usually did. She knew what was going on, so she really didn't have. I mean, she never said anything ill will about it, but it was definitely one of those things. It's like, I just don't like guns. Somebody's going to get hurt. They're going to shoot their eye out. I'd swear she almost gave me that line verbatim before the movie even came out. And she always also knew that, if I was being safe and, having fun and spending the time with my grandfather, then she was going to reluctantly let it go.
Right. And what are grandparents for, but to spoil the grandkids, right?
I was just going to say that. Yep.
So how did you get interested in competitive shooting? Where did you find out about it, and where did that interest come from?
How much time do you have?
Oh, we got all the time in the world. If it's a fun story.
It's actually a pretty cool story. Well, it stars me, so of course it is. But very, very humble and shy, by the way.
That's right, I can tell.
If you didn't figure that one out, yeah. So I bought my first handgun, my own gun that I bought that wasn't something my grandfather gave me, and it wasn't something in the circa 1940s when it was made. I bought my very first handgun when I turned 21. It was a Glock 17, and I thought that was just the coolest thing in the world. And I still have it, a Gen 1 Glock 17.
Oh, wow.
But I'd go to the range and shoot one round a second at just about any indoor or outdoor range in California, where you only get to shoot one round a second. You don't get to do anything, we'll call it tactical,
right.
Moving and shooting, things of that nature. And honestly, I didn't even know it existed. And one night I was laying in bed flipping through the channels and found a TV show on basically Wednesday night at the range on the Outdoor Channel. And it was hosted by Michael Bain.
Mm-hmm.
And he was taking a brand new shooter through their very first IDPA competition, which happened to be a major competition. And they took this brand new shooter, a female shooter, they took her through.
Was that the one at the Carolina Cup with I think I remember this episode because it intrigued me as well.
Let's see. It was Katie Rowe was the shooter.
Yes.
Was the brand new IDPA shooter.
Yep.
And they handed Katie off to like some of the greats in the sport. They kind of prep her on the stage, tell her what she needs to do, and then she'd go and shoot that stage. And I was absolutely dumbfounded. I had to make sure I hit the record button because I've never seen this type of shooting before.
Yep.
And so the next morning I got up and I went back to the DVR and I watched it again, and then grabbed my iPad and looked up what this IDPA thing is. Again, never heard of it. And found a local club. Took me not that long at all to send an email and say, I want to come and shoot at your club. What do I need to do? And I found in Sacramento, we actually have a quite large club called Sacramento Defensive Pistol Shooters. And one of the prerequisites to get into that club was to take an intro to IDPA class. And so I signed up for the class, and the class got canceled. So I signed up for the next month and finally got in. And I'll tell you, I've been shooting since I was 5 years old. I knew everything there was to know about shooting until the buzzer went off. And I'm looking at this thing on my leg going, what side of this do I hold? And what am I doing with it again?
Yep.
And again, all I did was shoot 1 round a second at the indoor range, or shoot in the country with my grandfather, and the nerves were like unbelievable.
Right.
But then when I was done, the adrenaline, and I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie, and the adrenaline was pumping. I'm just like, yes, and heck yes, this is what I'm doing. And kind of the rest is history from there. Now, a little side note is that same person I was watching on TV, Katie Rowe, is now a good friend of mine.
Oh.
She's also a Californian.
Right.
I was so intimidated. I don't get starstruck. I've known so many different people who are famous in their own right. And I saw Katie and went, oh my God, that's Katie Rowe. And it probably took me about 2 years to tell her. It's like, hey, Katie, the whole reason I'm shooting IDPA is because I saw that episode of you. And she got a good laugh out of it.
What did you do after that? After that first match of with all the nerves and the excitement and the realization that this is very different than standing on a static line shooting one round a second, what did you do from there to try to get better?
Oh, that's an easy answer. I'll give you the longer version then. Figured out I needed training. So when you shoot 1 round a second, it's like, okay, whatever. Yeah, there's not a lot to it. And then you realize there is so much to it. Being a reformed golfer, as I'll say, when you approach the golf ball, there are 30 different things that have to go through your head: the grip, the stance, the posture, how you're bringing your club back, how you're releasing the club. And I was able to correlate a lot of these same things from golf into shooting. I mean, when you get up to the line and you're sitting there up until the buzzer goes off, because the great mind eraser is going to blow anything you had going in your head anyways.
Right.
But up until the buzzer's going off, you're thinking, okay, my feet are planted, my stance, that's my first target. When I grip, these two hands are going to move, they're going to meet, they're going to push the gun straight out, thumbs forward, solid base, press. And then the timer goes off, and it's like, hurrah! Which way did you go, George? Which way did you go? So after that first match, to answer your question, I realized that, okay, out of 120 shooters, I think I placed 89th. And I'm not competitive at all. I'm going to throw that out there now, and realize that that's not where I wanted to be. So I realized that my cheap holster that I purchased on Amazon or eBay, my Blade Tech mag pouches that, one was loose and the other magazine was a little too tight because of that single screw in the center. Some of the equipment that I was using just might not have been up to snuff. So, of course, it's not me. I've been shooting all this time, and so I'm great. So I went and purchased some better equipment. And
that made all the difference, right?
Absolutely not. But it made some difference. I mean, your equipment definitely helps.
Yeah.
And I remember somebody, I walked up to the table to sign in for my first match. They said, "What division are you shooting?" And I'm like, "Divisions? What do you mean?"
What?
"Well, what gun are you shooting?" And I told him, I got an XD9 4-inch. "Oh, you need to shoot ESP with that." Okay. So I'm shooting a completely stock, out-of-the-box gun. I think the only thing it has on it is some rounds down the barrel and oil on it. That's it.
Right.
And I'm going up against people with quasi-race guns.
Yes.
Took me a couple matches to realize that, I should do some things to the gun, like lighten the trigger, or maybe a magwell, put the tactical stuff on there, the unicorn horn and the coffee maker and everything else I can put on there. But after a couple matches, I kept going down. I went from 89th to 62nd, 63rd, into the 50s. And it's like, okay, this is cool. I'm in the bottom half. Now I realize it's not the equipment.
Right. Equipment will only get you so far.
Yeah, now you need to learn how to use the equipment. Just because you have a backhoe doesn't mean you know how to use it. So I then went and got some training, and I remember I went on the Facebook group, and I was thinking, okay, well, I've got a few matches under my belt. I've got my gun handling is pretty decent. I'm going to apply for my California CCW, my concealed carry permit. And so I went on the Facebook page for the club, and I said, hey, anybody know of any trainers or any good places to do this? And of course, person who now happens to be one of my business partners, and I'm one of the partners of the company, says, yeah, look one post above yours. And I flip up and I'm like, oh, yeah. Hey, look, you're a firearms trainer. Okay. And so I went and took my CCW class with him, and then realized, okay, there's so much more. I need more training. So I started taking more training, and, my grip, way wrong. My stance, way wrong. I was shown some more modern things, like, the Weaver stance, good stance, competitively, not winning with that stance. So I was shown more modern things to help.
Right.
I mean, the grip alone to mitigate recoil. And that's pretty much what I realized after my first match.
Were you doing the teacup?
I was not doing the teacup. I was doing the finger on the trigger guard, and
okay.
Thumbs down, not thumbs forward.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I was doing everything wrong, by the way.
Well, this is
again, the person who taught me how to shoot was a revolver shooter who had revolvers in World War II.
Right.
So he taught me what he knew.
Yep.
But, we also don't drive the same cars that we had in the 40s.
Right.
Not if we want to go fast.
Interestingly, we still shoot some of the same guns, though.
Yes, we do.
We won't go there. We won't get into the Glock and 1911 debate. Not even going to touch that.
Hey, my favorite gun is whichever one has a trigger and is closest to me.
Yes.
And that could be any of them.
Exactly. How long after all of this got started, how long before you ventured out to put on one or to shoot with the guys in the NASCAR jerseys? And where was it, and what do you remember of that day?
Oh, geez. My very first match wearing a quasi-NASCAR jersey was with the team that I started. Because so to go back, take one step back, our club here in Sacramento, when I started shooting, it's like you see the guys walking around the NASCAR jerseys, and there were probably about 50-50. About 50% of the shooters out there, guys and gals, were wearing a Rudy Project, a Sacramento Black Rifle, a one-on-one firearms, or one of the many other shooting team jerseys out there.
Right.
And so, when I started the team, we went down and we didn't have any sponsors. We actually, I take that back. We had one sponsor. It was a holster sponsor, local guy at our club that would make holsters for us. And we debuted those jerseys at the Northern Arizona High Country Shootout in Prescott, Arizona. Okay. They were the most hideous jerseys I've ever seen. I look back on them now and go, what were we thinking? We went down to a local screen printer and, showed them the logo, and they put the logo on the back, our name on the front, the smaller logo on the front, and our sponsor's logo on the sleeve. And that big logo on the back being screen printed has been dubbed the solar panel because on a nice hot day, you would have this perfect sweat ring on your back. And they were navy camo.
Oh.
Yeah. If I can find a picture, I'll send it to you. You can do it as you wish. It was pretty. They were pretty bad, but that's where we debuted the jerseys, and that was just to kind of get us from. I think that was August through the end of the year when we really started going out and finding the sponsors, and we found a local gun store to the Sacramento area, and then Sean and Joe brought our team, the 4 or 5 members of the team on board, and that team is still around. I just am not in charge of it anymore.
Right.
But I want to say February of the following year is when we we actually started hanging out with the cool kids wearing a real NASCAR jersey. And we've been shooting matches all over the country.
Very cool. Where's the furthest that you've traveled, and what's the most memorable trip that you took?
They're all memorable. They're all memorable in their own way. Worlds, just what was that, last month?
Right.
That was memorable, but not for a good reason. My gun decided to break on the very first stage of day one.
Oh no.
And the thing is, shooting CCP, my Glock 19 has been absolutely flawless for almost 2 years. It's broken in 2 matches. Well, 3 matches. All 3 of them happen to be majors. So nationals last year, I broke a firing pin, or a striker, snapped the tip off, and had to rebuild it. But yeah, that doesn't bode very well for your score.
Usually not. Yeah.
This year, my trigger wouldn't reset.
Oh.
So I had a dead trigger. So I had a bolt action pistol for the first stage, which is awesome. Yeah, a 5-second stage was 21 seconds. Yeah, so hey, adversity's gonna hit. It's how you deal with it.
Right.
I mean, you can go around, using colorful metaphors and kicking rocks, or you can just say, well, I'm gonna have the best time I possibly can. So I forgot all about my gun breaking until you had to bring it up. Thank you. I was dwelling on the good. And only one other match, and that was my own stupidity. One other match, Washington. I walk to the safe table. I pull my handgun out, take a sight picture, and look at my rear sight, and I lost my set screw, and my rear sight drifted.
Oh no!
Way to the right, and so I'm sitting there going, "Oh man, what am I going to do? What am I going to do?" Oh, my carry gun. My carry gun happens to be in my bag in the car, so I go and I get my carry gun, and I take the slide off my carry gun and slap it on my competition frame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, somebody with a slightly cooler mindset at that point might have gone with, okay, you have reduced power springs here, you have competition springs here, and you have carry springs here. It's kind of like putting oil and water together.
Right.
The gun's not going to act right, and sure enough, it didn't.
No.
So I ended up rebuilding the entire gun. Between the 2, I made 1 gun. So it was I frankly done that after I think about the 3rd stage, when I realized things weren't happening the way that they're supposed to. But this is not a Glock perfection, and my partner Joe, my business partner Joe, loves to, anything goes wrong with the Glock, it's like, oh yeah, isn't that perfection? But I look at him and go, yeah, until I get a hold of it. But the guns work awesome until you start
tinkering. Yes.
Taking those loose tolerances and tightening them down. But so going back to answer your question, I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent there.
You warned me that might happen. That's okay.
Yeah. I would say every match is memorable in its own way. Walt Prue, who I believe you've had on your show a few months ago.
Yep.
Walt has coined a phrase, "my ballistic brothers and sisters," and it's so true. It's going to the matches, and your performance is what you can do. I mean, it's, you either went amazing or it didn't go as quite as planned. But to get to hang out with the friends that you meet. I mean, you and I met face to face for the first time at Worlds, which was awesome.
Yep.
I've met, like I was talking about meeting Katie Rowe. I met her for the first time at the Western Regional that we have up here in Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
And and then building these friendships and these relationships and with people all across the country.
So speaking of the Western, you are going to be the AMD for this year's or next year's Western. You You've been the MD in the past, much to your wife's chagrin. Talk about
Quite literally.
Talk about the Western and how you became you became match director, and give us a little bit of the flavor of the history of the match.
Absolutely. So let's start with the history of the match. The match started out as a California state match. I want to say 5 or 6 years ago, it started out as the California state match. Then it turned into the Western. I mean, we're Western regional match, and the Western, because we're on the West Coast. I mean, there's no better reason to call it the Western, because it's kind of the Western half of the state, the Western quarter, third, whatever you want to call it. I mean, we've had people from all over the world coming to this match.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had the founding match director of the match was John Mercurio, and he's unfortunately no longer shooting IDPA, but he was the match director for forever. It was kind of his match, and I said that to him once, and he's like, no, this is all of our matches. I volunteered to work as whatever he needed, and I ended up being the scorekeeper because I was the scorekeeper for our local club.
Right.
And the next part, before I can get into how I became the match director, is to take a step back. Is our club, we shoot we shoot 8 stages with as many as 120 shooters per month at our local club matches.
Mm-hmm.
So we're essentially shooting a tier 2 match every month.
Right.
And so I talked to the club president and said, why don't we just sanction one of our club matches? It's essentially already a tier 2. And he said, that's an awesome idea. You know anyone who can do that? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Do you? He's like, yeah, you volunteered or voluntold. And so I kind of pondered it and kind of went back and forth and opted to, I put a proposal together to the board of directors for the club and said, I want to be the match director of a tier 2 match. And I'm going to call it the Reloaded match. And the reason we're calling it Reloaded is because what I've done is I've taken quick burner stages from different matches around the country that I've shot that year.
Okay.
And so I've taken all what have already been sanctioned. And the idea behind this was to bring these matches to Sacramento, where, a good majority of our club do not travel. I would say it's gotten better over the last couple of years, or it's gotten a higher percentage of shooters that would travel. But I started taking stages and bringing them to Sacramento, and this is going to be the 3rd year that I'm doing this match. Typically first weekend of May, we've just said, okay, this is for our tier 2. And so the first year that I did this match, John reached out to me and said, I'm done doing the Western. He's like, I've been doing it for 3 years now, and I'm just kind of, it's time to let go of the reins.
Right.
I'm sure he got the same conversation from his wife that I got from mine. And I believe the statement was, you are not going to be match director next year, correct? I'm like, was that a question or a statement? Let's not ask that question. That was in my head, by the way. My only response to that was, yes, dear. And so I'm sure John had a similar conversation. And so he said, well, since you're going to be the match director of the tier 2 match, the Reloaded match, why don't you become the match director of the Western? And I'm never the one to shy away from, more work. Again, sleep is overrated. So I agreed to it. And so the first year I did Reloaded was his last year of doing the Western.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the last 2 years, I've been the match director of the Western, and this year I'll be the assistant match director. The Western is not typically, it's a tier 4 match. We can have 250 plus shooters. We can accommodate that many shooters, if not a few more.
Right.
We take up 2 ranges at the Sacramento Valley Shooting Center. We take up range 2, which is our action pistol range. And then we also take over Cowboy Town.
Right.
that kind of helps take over the Western theme, right?
Right.
And so we've had different themes of, it's always been Western based, cowboy based stages, or I believe not this year, the previous year, we did a zombie based theme, which was more of a, we called it a Halloween-ish match because it was in October, and it's got a good cult fan following. I know quite a few shooters who have not missed a single match. It's an amazing match. I don't know what else to say about it. It's 11 months of work for a 2-day match,
right.
And right before that match starts, you're pulling hair out, going, "Oh man!" But as soon as that first round goes down range, everything just kind of goes away. The match is here, match has started, and a lot of comments that we get is this match is better and better and better every single year.
Yep. Yeah.
It's like it's. I almost hate hearing that, because how do we build on that? I mean,
you can never have a letdown.
Exactly. It's like,
more and more work. Yeah, everybody who's been on the show, who's been to the Western, just has it's one of between the Western and Live Free or Die on opposite ends of the country are the two matches that the majority of guests on the show have raved about. So it sounds like you're doing something right. How much of what you do with the firearms training company, how much of that sort of influences what you do in as a match director in designing stages for the Western? Or do you just sort of try to make it fun in a whole different way?
Fun in a whole different way.
Gotcha.
I wear two very distinctive hats. I'm also the vice president of the club, if I didn't mention that before. So, if it's club business, it's 100% club. And I'm thinking, when I design a stage, how can I design a stage that is going to be fun for the novice marksman,
mm-hmm.
and fun for the master?
Gotcha.
I mean, because if you make it too challenging and master appropriate, the marksman novice is not going to have a good time, and that's not going to be something that they're going to, that was too hard. I'm not going to come back for that.
Right.
I'm not going to come back because it's just way too hard. Now, I will tell you that Sean Young is, I call him the mad scientist, and he makes up the majority of our stages for the Western.
Okay.
He's got a certain level of evil genius in him. That the stages are just absolutely amazing. And so we really sit down, talk about the theme of the match,
mm-hmm.
and then start penciling things out. And what he comes up with, and he's starting to get more input, because he doesn't want to get stale on stages.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to keep things fresh. So he's starting to get more input from other people. I believe this year we've even talked about reaching out to different clubs throughout California, Oregon, Washington, and saying, sponsor a stage, design a stage for us.
Right.
And, we'll have creative changes that we may put to the stage, but, really give it really a true Western community feel to it this year. But the stages themselves, I mean, if you've seen any of the videos or talked to people that have shot the Western, every single one of them has been challenging.
Right.
I even said the first time I shot the Western, I came back from shooting nationals, my first year shooting nationals, and went, wow, this is a lot harder than nationals was. But because I let it get in my own head, it's you have to be accurate, and that may take, to answer your question, that may take a little bit from going from a trainer to the sport is, I want to say that it was Mike Seeklander who said you can't miss fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to hit your target. That's what IDPA is about. International Defensive Pistol Association. It's really about, hitting what you're aiming at.
Right.
And if you miss, well, there's
the consequences are big.
Sport, but in real life, they're even bigger.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I always try to keep that in mind as well. It's like, okay, well, when you do a scenario, is this realistic? Substitute zombies for bath salt eating whatever, or Tide Pod eaters. But is it realistic enough? And what are the consequences for a miss?
Right.
If they're heavy, it's for a good reason. I was not happy when IDPA went from that half second to the 1 second. It's like, really, now it's you got to slow down and take your shots. And then it dawned on me, it's like, duh, shouldn't you do that already?
Right. You can't. No longer can you outrun your bad shooting.
Yes, there's another sport for that.
Yes.
And it's not even outrunning your bad shooting. You still have to shoot pretty accurately, but still, you don't have to shoot as accurately.
Yes, true.
And I'm sure I will get some mail on that one. But one is designed to shoot really fast. I mean, USPSA, you shoot fast.
Right.
And IDPA, you have to shoot accurately. 1 second is, and for every hit on a non-threat, whew,
yeah,
that one hurt a lot of people when that came
steep.
out. Yeah. It is, but hey, in real life it'd be steep too. But if you shoot them once, you're already getting sued.
Yep, exactly right. So you've already alluded to what I think is probably going to be the answer here, or part of the answer to this last question, and that is, at your club, you guys shoot multiple disciplines, but you've put a lot of effort since you joined IDPA in 2014. You've put a lot of effort into not just your shooting career, but into building a tremendous match experience for shooters at the Western and traveling all over the country. What is it about IDPA that makes you want to do it?
I would have to say probably the realism of it, the scenario driven, knowing the history of IDPA, how it started. I will tell you, I have now shot and will shoot a lot every shooting discipline I can. I've shot the multi-gun. I've shot the USPSA. I've shot Steel Challenge. But my heart is honestly into IDPA for the simple fact that it's really the realism. It's the camaraderie. It's where I started. It's where my roots are in the shooting community. Mm-hmm. And, I've met so many great, amazing people that, I want to put on, if I'm the match director or the assistant match director, I want to put together the very best product, something that IDPA will look back at and go, yeah, that was good. Something that all the shooters, whether we have a marksman shooter or a distinguished master, are going to turn around and say, that's the match. That's the match I want to keep coming back to. And I may sacrifice my own shooting because I'm so focused on putting together these really good matches, where traveling is the time I don't have to work. It's so amazing. Obviously, with an exception to the taping and the brassing. And you don't even have to brass at most of these matches because they're lost brass matches.
Right.
But, I can't tell you how many times at Worlds, I heard the radio go off and my head flipped around. It's like, that's not my problem. They're calling somebody else, not me today. So my heart is into IDPA just for the simple fact that it's, again, to repeat what I said before, the realism of it, this is a scenario driven. You're saving your loved ones. I can't tell you how many times I've been up against thugs or gang members, Antifa lately, the bath salt smoking weirdos has been a new one, marauders. But even though the scenarios are really interesting, the stages, I I can't even say I've even shot the same stage twice. So everybody's idea of a good stage is great.
Right.
That's really a tough question to answer. Why is my heart in it? Because that's where I want to be. I mean, these are the people I want to be with. These are the stages I want to shoot, and this is the camaraderie that I love.
Well, I don't think you could have said it any better. Ryan, thank you so much for everything you're doing. Thank you for thank your wife for putting up with everything that you've done over the years. And thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. It was great to get to meet you face to face and get a chance to chat with you tonight. And I look forward to seeing you again in the near future.
Likewise. Thank you very much, Lloyd.
All right, that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank our guest for coming on the show and our sponsors for making all of this possible. Take a moment, if you would, to check out the website, check out our show notes at unloadpodcast.com. We've got lots of interviews with more amazing guests like the one you heard today. Join our Facebook group at unloadpodcast.com/Facebook for all the latest updates and to connect with other fans of the show. And if you'd like to support the show, we sure would appreciate it. Consider becoming a patron at unloadpodcast.com/extra. I've got some full-length interviews and special content available there exclusively for patrons as well. And if you know somebody or you yourself would make an interesting guest for a future episode of Unload and Show Clear, please contact me at lloyd@unloadpodcast.com or click on the contact page on the website and send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Tune in again next time for another episode of Unload and Show Clear.